Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let's Play It by Ear podcast. I'm Carrie, here with my co host, Joanna.
Hello.
And today we're going to talk about our graduation recital and prepping for master's applications and potential job applications as well, and maybe some other things too.
Yeah, we'll see what we get to.
Yes. So, before we dive right in, let's open with a question, Joanna. Let me ask you, how did you feel when we were going into our fourth year of our undergraduate studies?
Um, Feeling wise, I um I felt like I was not ready for fourth year and to graduate. Like I felt like I didn't learn enough, you know. Um I that I like I was like I haven't learned everything that I thought that I needed to learn by this point, you know?
Yep.
And knowing how fast the previous years had felt, I was like, oh my gosh, this year's going to go by so fast. And before I know it, like, I'm going to be graduated, you know? Like, and what do I do afterwards, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But feeling very not ready, I would say. That's how I felt. And like sort of I felt a pressure to sort
Oh,
of learn everything that I needed to learn,
yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's a very good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah. How about you? Did you feel similar?
I had a very similar feeling. At the same time, I felt like the first 3 years were very long in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a steep learning curve to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but at this simultaneously, I felt like it was just like a heartbeat, a
Yeah.
blink of an eye. And you're in fourth year, like suddenly, what do I do after graduation? Am I ready to graduate?
Yeah.
Like, am I ready to face the real world
Yeah.
or apply for masters?
Yeah. I recall being in first year and looking at the fourth years and being like, oh my God, they've made it
Yeah.
and they're so amazing and they sound amazing. And like, um, man, it's going to be so long before I'm ever going to reach that point. And then suddenly I was the fourth year, you know?
Hmm.
And I felt like a first year in a fourth year's body, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
I still felt like a first year. Like I still felt like I was still feeling my way around, feeling around what I was supposed to be doing in my degree, and yeah, just feeling so unready for the world, you know?
Yeah. It feels like the previous 3 years you learned so much. You gained so much experience, but then at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, heading into your last year of undergrad, you feel like I still don't know anything at all.
Yeah, I think
There's still
it's
so much I need to try to learn.
it's that thing of like the more you know you don't know, you
Yep.
know? Like the more you learn, the more cans of worms you open up, right?
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
start to realize that like there's more and more and more things that we don't actually know.
Hmm.
Um Man, and like it just I naively thought that feeling would go away.
Did it?
No. I, I still feel it now. Um but I think now that it's been so long that I felt that feeling, I think now I've become friends with that feeling, and I've sort of used that feeling of feeling like a complete noob for everything to fuel my desire to learn more, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like I think I used to feel more of the negative side effects of it, like that
Okay.
pressure the
Mm-hmm.
um in a weird sense guilt. Like I would feel
Why?
I would
Why
feel
guilt?
guilt because I would think about all the times I procrastinated, or think about all the times I didn't practice when I should have practiced. And I would be like, that was all wasted time that I could have used to learn more by now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Um, but now I'm like, oh, there's more I don't know. Well, let's go learn it. Like, let's
Yeah.
go see what this deal is, you know? Like, and it becomes exciting. Like, I think before I was looking more into the past of what I could have done to
Mm-hmm.
be better by now, and sort
Right.
of bemoaning the fact that I thought I had wasted so much time. But my perception of my past was that I had wasted a lot of time. But
Mm-hmm.
now I think of it more as like an excitement for the future, right?
Mm.
It's an excitement of the now, and an excitement of the future. Like, I don't know this. Ooh, this is a new thing I get to look into now and in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different way of seeing the same thing,
It's an
basically.
attitude change, can you say?
Yeah, yeah. But I kind of almost feel like it's more than an attitude change, right?
Okay.
Um, like I kind of wish that, you know, back in fourth year when we got to fourth year, that
Mm-hmm.
like I wish someone sat me down and said, "Hey, you're not crazy for feeling the way you're feeling. It's completely normal," right? I don't recall talking to any other fourth year about this feeling.
When we were in fourth year, or
Yeah,
before we reached fourth year?
when we were in fourth year,
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't recall that either.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about it now. And I would
Yeah.
say that this is definitely a feeling that I have talked about after the fact
Yeah.
to other people.
Mm-hmm.
But in that year, I don't recall talking about it to any other fourth year. Yeah. But I feel like if we did talk about that and if we were open about it, I think just knowing that I wasn't crazy
Mm-hmm.
would have helped a lot, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like it would have helped me have that attitude change, I think, a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
so you know, I mean, that's why we're making this podcast, in the
Yeah.
hopes that, you know, someone in music school hears how, you know, how we feel at the very
Yeah.
least, how two other people felt going through music school,
Yeah.
and that like these feelings exist, they're normal, and they don't make you not worthy of your degree,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't make you crazy, right?
Yep.
These feelings are completely normal. I would say that, you know, now that I've been talking more and more about it, a lot of people relate. If anything, if anyone doesn't feel this way, they're the abnormal ones.
Okay, I guess, yeah, fair to say.
But I mean, that's me. So how about you? Like,
Yeah.
how did you feel coming
No,
into
I
fourth
I
year?
agree, and I very much share the same feelings. Also because I felt the same, I remember feeling the same way in high school. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
towards the last year of
interesting.
high school. So if you listeners and viewers out there, if you are in your last year of your high school career, or you're going into your fourth year for
Yeah.
undergraduate degree, you are not alone. Or
No.
at least we both felt the same way.
Yeah.
So I remember graduating high school, I felt okay, so I had however many years of schooling before that. Am I ready for university? No, I don't think so. Fourth year of
Oh.
undergrad, am I ready to graduate? No, I don't think so. But like you said, I think there was still this teeny tiny part of me that was sane, I think.
Mhm.
And it grasped onto a certain sense of excitement.
It
Like
sounds
there's
like
still
you grasped
something.
onto it faster than I did. I think sounds like it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, oh, there, I know I have so much that I still need to learn.
Mm. Hmm.
Let's start now. Because I remember when
That's
I was
so
planning my
good.
my graduation recital, that's more or less the mindset that I went in with. Like I wanted to
Oh.
celebrate the 4 years, like the culmination of the 4 years of my undergrad. So just try new pieces, discover something new.
You definitely grasped that feeling faster than I did. that that's a beautiful way of approaching your graduation recital.
I'm struggling actually now to think of what I played. I can't remember.
But you know, it doesn't matter.
Uh, I yeah, I don't really remember.
I
But
remember my third year recital more than my fourth year, to be completely honest with
oh.
you. Yeah. Um that's so beautiful, Carrie. That's a beautiful way of approaching a graduation recital because I did not approach it that way. It was a bum rush to the end, basically.
Can you describe?
So I wasn't celebrating anything.
Okay.
Um, I simultaneously did not feel ready to get out, and yet
Mm.
I also was so ready
Mm-hmm.
to not be in school anymore.
Okay.
And I realized, like, especially because you mentioned that you felt very similarly in high school. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually wanted to ask you a little bit more about that
Yep.
because in high school, I got really bad senioritis. For those
What
of
is
you
that?
who don't know what senioritis is,
Right?
it's basically when you get to the last few months of your senior year, your last year in high
Mm-hmm.
school or in university, and you kind of stop caring because you're just so done with
Oh,
school
okay, okay.
that you stop caring. I got senioritis really badly in the last few months of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I also got senioritis very badly in the last few months of my bachelor's. But it was very strange because, like, that's kind of, I think, one of the reasons why I felt so crazy was because, on the one hand, I didn't feel ready to graduate. But on the other hand, I didn't care anymore. Like,
Mm.
I think I felt so overworked
Mm-hmm.
and that I just needed an out, you know?
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
I mean, you know what it's like in music school, right? So like it's a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of performances, performance after performance after performance,
Yep.
right? Rehearsal after rehearsal after rehearsal. You're constantly playing. You know, like by the time I got to fourth year, I didn't have that many academic classes anymore. They were mostly performance classes.
Mm-hmm.
Same with you, right?
Yeah. Crammed everything into first
Yeah,
two
yeah.
years, really.
Mm-hmm. Same. I basically crammed everything in the first 2.5 years, I would say.
Yeah.
So performance stuff was basically left for third year and fourth year, and then but
Mm-hmm.
just by fourth year, it was just like this just constant onslaught of constantly having to perform. Um, I think it got to me, you know. So like I think my experience of, you know, like getting this graduation recital together and stuff like that was not at all a celebration of what I had studied. It
Okay.
was just whatever was convenient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just pick the convenient thing, treat it like another performance, and get it over with and get out, you know? And I, you know, looking back, I really wish I didn't treat it that way because I realize I think I may have done it prematurely with my third year recital. My third year recital, I think, should have actually been my graduation recital.
Were you excited for your third year recital?
Oh, very,
Oh, okay.
very excited. I still remember that recital like very clearly. Like I remember how I owned that stage, you know? And like I really caught the performance bug then. Like that was the moment that like I think I realized that I could really be a performer in my own right. That was the one. It was my third year recital. It's not my fourth year. My fourth year was like just another performance, you know?
Yeah, you were so done by then.
I was so done. So I'm curious about you, Carrie. Like, you know, when you were saying that you felt like very unready to graduate in high school, and also you felt this in, you know, in your bachelor's, like,
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know, like, what was in your mind that made you feel that way?
I think it's because I've never been really good with change of any
Oh,
sort, and especially the big kind. So graduating high school, going off to university was a huge, huge change for me that I felt
yeah.
I wasn't ready for.
Because you
But
also moved too.
yeah, but at the same time, I I didn't feel this way when we were about to graduate from undergrad. I felt
Okay.
this way graduating high school. I was done with high school.
Oh, okay. It sounds
Uh,
like you had pretty bad senioritis too then.
Not
Or
to the,
maybe like it
not to the,
manifested in a different
yeah,
way,
not
right?
to the
Yeah.
extent that I didn't care, because I think if anything, I'm the type of person who would care too much
Yeah.
and want to make everything so, like, just right or perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
But more so in the sense that I didn't exactly get along too well, I think, with my high school classmates. I mean, they're all nice,
Yeah.
but I didn't really feel like there was anyone I could really.
Like they weren't your like family, like
Yeah,
school family, right?
yeah.
Like
Not like the people that I met in university. It's like I
I
just felt like they didn't
yeah.
like I they're good friends, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really I could really engage in conversations with them about what we're passionate about, just because we didn't
Yeah.
really share that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't understand my love for classical music. They didn't really understand why I wanted to go to music school, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was the way I felt when I was about to graduate in high school.
Interesting. Interesting. So like you felt unready, but more so because of the unknown.
Yep, that's the perfect way of putting it.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
then in undergrad, it's more like I didn't feel ready because I felt, in a way, very comfortable with
Oh,
the
like
people and with the environment. I've gotten so used to it. So again, it has to do with change. Even though by then I knew
oh.
I would want to go on, like, directly onto a master's degree,
Right, yeah.
I was hoping for a change of environment then. Like, part of me is
Oh.
looking for that change,
Right.
but a huge part of me is like, am I really ready to leave?
Oh, that's so interesting. Like, do you think this has anything to do with um well, I'm going to get a little personal here. So I
Mhm.
have an older brother.
Yeah.
And so I live my life and you know, just so people know, my dad was a pastor and you know, we're pastors' kids, and my brother is very academic and has been since he was a wee child. Like
Yeah.
he's only 3 years older than me, and he picked my name, my English name, for me not
Oh.
based on how it sounded or how it looked, but because of the meaning of it. And he was only like 2.5 at that point. And like when my mom explained the meaning of my name, which is God is gracious, to him and explained what that meant, he actually understood it. Like my
Mhm.
mom is very confident that he understood it. And like
Mhm.
if you ask him now, he's like, yeah, I remember. Like
Yeah.
so like for a 2.5 year old to understand what God is gracious means, I mean, like, you're looking at a guy who's like a genius, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
He is.
and so I lived my life idolizing my brother because, and I just watched him go through everything before I did,
Mhm.
right? I watched him hit puberty. I watched him go to high school, and I actually went to the same high school he went to for a year before my family moved to Vancouver. And I watched him go to UBC, which is where we went for music school. And so I went to UBC, and so like I constantly had this example of what it was going to look like in the future. So I think that's why I was so surprised to hear that your version of like that unready feeling is fear of the unknown. Because to me, it was not unknown.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me, I saw my brother going through these things, so it wasn't the unknown. For me, it was looking back and being like, I didn't do enough. Right? But maybe we're getting into weird psychological things where I'm like looking at how much my brother did, and I'm like, I didn't do as much as my brother. I don't know if it's that, but like, I think that's so interesting that I think our feelings of feeling so unready are so like based in such different kind of like root feelings. Right?
Actually, that's a very insightful observation. I think I didn't think of that. Yep, I have a brother too, but he is almost 4 years younger than I am. So being the older child, I would be the one doing things first. Maybe.
Like you were in my brother's shoes. Like you're the one experiencing things first.
Yeah. I guess so. I've never really thought of that, so I can't give you an answer right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, no. I don't expect you to.
Yes, it is. It makes complete sense though.
Right?
Because like my parents, they wouldn't know what to expect.
My parents keep saying that about my brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess they went on the journey along with me. And then when it came to my brother, maybe they've experienced it already, and
or at least aspects of it, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Because I'm recalling now how you told me how you were really left to your own devices to do the full application process and stuff like that. And you were left to yourself to figure out how that whole process worked, right? I'm realizing now I didn't even have to guess. My mom knew how the application process was to UBC. She was literally actually familiar with the online application process because she had done it with my brother.
Wow. Yeah.
I took that for granted. I'm now realizing I completely took that for granted.
Yeah. I think for me when I was applying, it was more like, oh, if you have questions, let's go ask your high school and see what the guidance counselor says.
Yeah.
Because it was just so new to all of us.
Now that I think of it, they did that more with my brother, but less so with me. Because by the time they got to me, they already had gone through the process before. So they're like, oh, you just do it like this, Yeah,
you have a point. That's could be why.
Oh, that's so interesting. Man. Anyway, about graduation recitals.
After our little teeny tiny segue. Oh no, tangent, I mean.
Yeah. But so you were picking pieces to celebrate, right? And while you may not remember the pieces, do you remember the process? Yes. Planning the recital, preparing for it, what was that like for you? I never asked you this question before. I actually don't know the answer to this.
That's okay. I don't know if I've ever asked myself that question too. So let's see what kind of an answer I come up with. I think ever since the third year recital, I've
Mm.
always wanted to stray from standard pieces for the bassoon. Because I just
Oh,
felt
did you do
like
standards for your third year?
not entirely. I would keep
Oh.
I would keep like one or two pieces that are standard
Yeah.
simply because it feels like it was a norm.
Right.
But then I think I was lucky enough that my professor was supportive
Mm.
and said, "Yeah, it's fine if you want to push the envelope and try new pieces and not new like modern pieces,
Yeah.
but pieces that are lesser known."
Yeah. That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, because I just felt like I want to know that there's more out there for bassoon than just the traditional repertoire. Nothing wrong with the traditional repertoire; it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been done so
So
much.
much.
It's like I just feel like I'm competing with all these other bassoonists, and
Mm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I just want to do something I enjoy.
Something that has your voice in it, right?
Yeah, something that's a little like funky, a little fun, humorous.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with I really cannot remember if this was third year or fourth year, but I remember I went with an arrangement I think that my professor had done
Really?
of uh opera arias. He did arrangements and variations of those. I think he has a whole CD based on that. So that was one that I did, and then I did another piece by a I think Norwegian bassoonist slash
Mm-hmm.
composer called Coffee Tango.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
Mm?
I bought I bought coffee tango, or is it coffee tango or coffee? I bought a coffee related thing too for the
Oh,
flute.
Hmm.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I did some chamber music.
Yeah.
I did a Pulong trio.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, I just wanted to go with lesser known pieces, things
Yeah.
that weren't always made it fun, made it my own
I feel
little
like
celebration.
that's how I like I share a very similar feeling for my third year recital as
Mm.
well.
Mm.
Um, my third year recital was the one where I discovered the Golden Flute Concerto by Chen Yi.
Yeah.
She's a Chinese American composer. Um, and something about that piece really spoke to me because I was really, especially at that point, struggling with my kind of, I guess, like heritage and my like my ethnicity, struggling with my identity, um, because uh, I don't really know how to put it in a, I guess like a very PC way, but it definitely is. Maybe we'll talk about this more in the future, but
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I was really struggling with establishing what I felt was my legitimacy as a classical musician, as a Chinese North American flutist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's something about being Asian that a lot of, I certainly felt that the attitude towards me from many other musicians was just, oh, she's an overachiever. Um, and there was actually an article written about us, me and many other Asian musicians who had won a local competition. In the Vancouver Sun, there was an article written something along the lines of East meets West and takes a firm
Yeah, I
grip.
remember that.
Yeah. And essentially, the entire article was just talking about the fact that, oh, look, all these winners are Asian because they're overachievers. Uh,
Mm.
for anyone who wants to read this article, you can actually find it by searching up the Vancouver Sun and East meets West. I think it's East meets Western music and takes a firm grip. I believe that's what it is. It was demoralizing to see my name in such an article. It really erased, I think, what I felt was all my hard work, you know?
Yeah.
And so finding something like the Golden Flute Concerto was just so reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
And it just knowing that it was written by a Chinese American female composer
Mm-hmm.
was huge for me. And I think right now that's why I have such a huge appreciation for the video game music from Genshin Impact, because it is also written by a Chinese female composer. Yu Peng Chen, I believe is her name. And knowing that such music is so gorgeous and beautiful, and it marries my heritage with what I do for a living,
Mm-hmm.
classical music, Western classical music. I think it's just knowing those two things. That's what I was celebrating. I guess I was taking back, like through that recital, I was kind of taking back my identity, you know? So like, I think that's why I remember my third year recital so much more, because that's what I was celebrating. I was celebrating myself, as narcissistic as that sounds, but I was celebrating who I was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just really just fighting for my legitimacy as a musician. So, you know, I think by the time I reached fourth year, I didn't care anymore. It's just kind of premature, you know? Like, yeah.
You went through that tough fight in third year.
Yeah, I think I just gave up by fourth year, you know? Yeah, that was...
No, but I don't think there's anything wrong about that, because I feel like going back to that newspaper article,
Right.
that's just
It was
absolute no.
It was bad. Like if it was written now,
Mm-hmm.
it would go viral for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, yes,
but it
absolutely.
did not go viral then, because at that point there wasn't as much awareness surrounding, you know, the treatment of, you know, Asian people in North America.
Yeah. I think, it was still very much repressed back
Yes,
then.
it was. Yeah. It was.
Yeah, I felt like that article just lumped an entire race and
More than
erased
that, actually,
everyone's
because
individuality.
there were multiple ethnicities. There were some Japanese
Okay.
names in there too.
Yeah, so
I
they
believe
lumped
there
the
were,
whole Asian.
yeah, I believe there were Korean, Japanese, and Chinese names in there, and
Okay.
they lumped us all into one race.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they
It
pretty
was-
much just said they're all the same.
yeah.
So I think that's why you wanted to. I don't think it's narcissistic. You just wanted to rediscover your self-love.
I think
And
so.
there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's what I was doing. You know, and like that piece still holds a very special place in my heart, because I feel like if I didn't find that piece, that I would have lost myself very early on, you know. And especially, I'm not saying it's because of that article, but that article did kind of solidify the feelings that I felt a lot of the times from the general attitude towards Asian musicians at that time. I would say that attitude towards Asian musicians is very much minimized now. I would say that, you know, there's a lot more respect now for Asian musicians now than at that time. So I'm very glad that we live in the present time. Yeah, but yeah, I think I fizzled out, man, after that. Like, your preparation for your recital sounds so I don't know. I think the word that I would use is like very personable, you know? Like, you know, you're playing arrangements by your professor. I think that's so special.
Well, I mean, because I knew it was going to be a stressful time, so why not make it something that I could enjoy?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a beautiful way to approach it, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Like and like what was the process for you? Like the actual preparation, the actual practicing and like do you have
Oh,
any like I guess like your tips and tricks of how you handled that time?
um, I think maybe this is not so much tips and tricks, but just sharing my experience because I don't know if this would be for everyone.
Right.
Same
Yeah.
same in third year and fourth year, knowing that we would have to put on final recitals. I
Mhm.
think I actually started choosing the pieces at the beginning of the year.
Oh, fantastic. That's great.
Also, because being a bassoonist, it's harder for us to find music in music stores or in libraries. Sometimes you would, more
Oh.
often than not, actually, not sometimes, you would have to special order it from online music stores.
And back then that was hard. It's
Oh,
not as easy as now.
yeah. You
Yeah.
would have to do a little bit of digging. Like
Yeah.
if your professor doesn't have a copy of it that you could use or borrow,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, you'd have to source it yourself. And I think I did maybe do that with some of the pieces. If not, I definitely
Wow.
did do that for my master's recital. I remember that.
Wow.
So if you know you are going to be playing pieces that are not as common,
Yeah.
do your research early and find out where you can get
Yeah.
your music from, and not
Mhm.
just your part, but also the piano part or the orchestral part if you are playing with a chamber ensemble
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Good tip. Good tip.
So I remember doing that.
Wow. Wow. And leading up to the recital, like, how did you handle the pressure?
I started practicing. I think I started focusing on the recital pieces maybe 3, 4 months before.
Good. That's a pretty good timeline.
Again, because I don't have a lot of confidence in myself.
Yeah.
So I gave myself ample time to learn the pieces and also just to contact my pianist early
mm. Mhm.
and
Mhm.
gave them the music and say, "Here you go. Can you learn this, please?"
Right.
and
Yeah.
rehearse with them too.
I mean, that also makes it much easier for booking people, right? Like
Yeah.
booking your pianist, booking
Hmm.
your panel, because for these recitals, they are marked, they are
Yep.
graded. So you have to have a panel of professors grading your recital, and
Hmm.
they have to be present at the
Yes.
recital. And so, you know, especially if you're preparing it that early, you were also booking the professors pretty early too as a
Hmm.
result, right? Because you have to book the space, right? So you
Yeah.
have to book the space with your front desk, right?
Hmm.
Of your music school. You book the space, and then once you've booked the space and the time, because you want to book that first and make sure you
Yeah.
get that first, and then that the next thing to do is to book your pianist and anyone else who is playing with you, like let's say
Hmm.
because you are doing some chamber music,
Yeah.
right? So you have to book your all of your friendos who are going to be playing with you
Yep.
on the stage. You have to book your professor, and you have to book sometimes one or two other professors depending on what your school
Hmm.
you know requires. And you have to book them all and make sure they can all show up at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, very true.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. So I think you doing it that early allows for a lot of planning ahead of time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And also one teeny tiny detail as well too. When you give your music to the pianist, you
Mm-hmm.
can also ask them, "Do you think you will require a page turner?" Because if they
Oh
do,
my
that is
God, you're
also
right.
another person you need to book.
That's true. That's
If
another
you,
friend you need to
yeah,
book. Yeah.
if you have stage changes as well,
Yep.
you need to ask your friends to help. Again, you need to ask them early,
Yep.
because more often than not, they may also have their own recitals to contend with. So you don't want
I mean,
schedules
yes.
to clash.
Yes, yes, we did. Sometimes there'd be multiple recitals in a single day.
Yeah.
And
Back
then
to back.
people will just kind of back to back help each other out, you know? Oh my gosh, you're so right about the
I remember
page
doing
turner.
that.
Yeah, well, I remember doing that too. You're so right about the page turner and the stagehand, basically. In our school, I don't recall having a specific stagehand for our recitals. They were your friends.
Yes.
That you booked.
They are your friends.
Yes. So you literally asked your friends if they would be your stagehand. Yeah. Or you do it like me and you set it up one way. And it just stays that way for the entire recital. Yeah. That's how I got around it.
But only if you're not doing chamber pieces, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like if you're doing chamber pieces and, you know, you have to bring out different chairs and different setup and stuff like that, you have to have like at least 2 stagehands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, gotta think about your page turners and stagehands.
Yeah. Just think about all the details. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to write things down.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just make some notes as you think.
Wow. So I had a very weird pre-recital 2-week boot camp that I would put myself through.
Okay, what was that?
Did you have anything similar to that?
I remember, I think by that time we were friends.
Yeah.
And we were talking enough that you told me something like that.
Yeah.
I think the few days leading up to it, I remember running the program at least once a day.
Yes.
But prior to that, no.
Okay.
It was just about building up stamina, practicing, and making sure all the sections were good, all the pieces were, I was comfortable and confident with all the pieces. But no boot camp. What was your boot camp?
You know, all the things that you talked about, like, you know, you started early, 4 months early and stuff like that. I have to admit that I have no recollection of my timeline.
Okay.
The only timeline that I remember, okay, it's not that I have no recollection, but I have a recollection of it being very messy. Like, my timeline was very messy. I maybe had one piece that I kind of knew would end up on my recital, like, you know, at the beginning of the year. Right. And then, like, I would maybe pick another one or by around Christmas time. And then, like, I would choose my last 2 pieces, like, 2 months before the recital or something like that. Like, it was messy. Okay. I do not, and I repeat, I do not recommend anyone do it my way. Please do it Carrie's way. Okay. But I think
or a happy in between.
Yeah. Or a happy in between. Yeah, that's true. The one thing that I felt I did okay on, though, given the fact that I had such a messy lead up to everything else. Now, weirdly enough, I was not messy when it came to logistics. So when it came to the logistics of, like, booking the hall, booking the professors, booking all that stuff, I did all that stuff early, right? So anytime it came to logistics, like, I had it down. I had spreadsheets. I had, like, you know what I mean? Like, I did the whole shebang, you know?
You're more organized than me on that front then.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I enjoy logistics. So I actually, you know, fun fact for you guys, I did the logistics for my wedding. So I was the wedding planner for my wedding because I actually enjoyed the logistics of it. So and the reason why my mom knew that I would not get a wedding planner is because she watched me plan out the logistics of all of my recitals. You know, so she was like, come on, Like you could. I ended up running my own rehearsal for my own wedding. Like that. That's the type of like
Yep,
logistics person.
she did. Believe me, she did.
Yeah,
and you ran it really well.
Thank you. But like, I think I weirdly enjoy that stuff. I enjoy the logistics part of setting up that type of event.
Gives you a sense of control.
I think so. It creative control in a way, right? Like I feel like I like put the pieces together, you know, and it like it's like works like, you know, well-oiled machinery. You know, yeah, right? Like it just like it seeing it all work on the day together is like magic, right?
Yeah.
And so for anyone that I asked to be a page turner or to help with, you need a friend outside ushering people in too, by the way. That's another person you need. You also need an usher.
Programs too. I think.
Handing out programs. Exactly. You need someone, maybe the same person, to block people from entering the recital hall before they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you need someone guarding the outside, right? So anyway, I enjoyed doing all of that, but like the actual music and planning the music itself, I was horrible at, man. Like I was really, really bad at that. So of course my husband picked all of our music for our wedding too, like, cause that was just not my jam. And it's just so funny how that worked out. Like it's exactly reflected in how we planned our wedding. I did not touch any of the music. The only thing I did was pick the music that I was going to walk down the aisle to, and that was it. There was like no other music. I did not touch it at all. It was all John, my husband. And so I find it hilarious that that is exactly the part that I was the messiest on for my recitals. But anyway, the one thing I did right though was for myself, and this only really works for me, was that I knew that I was such a mess with the music that I just needed to desensitize myself to it, right? So I knew that it takes 2 weeks to form a habit. So what I did was 2 weeks before the recital, from the day 2 weeks before, I decided to run my entire program at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night. And I would force myself to go through it. And I knew that the first few times I was going to bomb it. It was going to sound awful, right? I actually expected it, right? But my idea was if I can play through the entire recital while I'm dead tired from an entire day, then I'll be fine on stage, right? So I did this every night leading up to the, for 2 weeks leading up to the recital. And sure enough, by the time the recital, you know, came around and I was on stage playing, like I can think about other things and still go, right?
It's all muscle memory by that point.
It's like complete muscle memory. It is like my body is like so used to it because it like built up that habit over 2 weeks. So that was the one thing I did right for the music.
Well, at least you did that. You can't say you didn't do anything.
Yeah. It was that and the logistics. Those two things I know I did very well on, but gathering the music for it, writing the program notes and stuff like that, I was actually very messy with that stuff. Very, very messy. Very last minute.
As long as you got it in on time, I think.
Like in the end, no one knew how messy it was behind the scenes, except my teacher, my poor teacher. I feel sorry for her. She had to deal with me. Yeah, I looking back, I'm like, oh man, I was such a mess. But like, yeah, I really was such a mess. And but I know what I did well, and I know what I did very messily, right? But in the end, you know, because it looked like such a well-oiled machine, right? Everyone was like, oh man, that was such a great performance. But like deep inside, I knew that there was a lot that I could have done better. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as long as it gets done.
I know, right?
Out of curiosity, though, did you do any recital posters?
Oh. Yeah. I was good at that too. So
Yeah, because I think that's your creative outlet
That
too.
was my creative outlet. Like I really enjoyed making posters. So what I did was I got my pianist to take these really silly photos with me in practice rooms, because the point of posters is to grab people's attention, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not about looking pretty. It's about grabbing people's attention. That's the point of a poster, right? So I was like, I was not trying to look pretty. I was trying to look silly, right? So we made all these like very silly kind of photo booth-esque photos. And then I would edit it at home, and then I would put, third year recital or graduation recital featuring Joanna and, name of my pianist. And then I put, the date, the time, location, all that good stuff, right? Maybe even a tiny little map. Some of them had a little tiny cheeky little map. Yeah. Like it's like really cute, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, and, post them all around. And I mean, the reason why you're asking is because I became known as like the poster girl. I would make posters for my quintet, my Nachschlag Wind Quintet. We would do these crazy self photo shoots. So we would put my camera, which wasn't even a DSLR camera, by the way. It was just like a point and shoot camera. And we would put it on a tripod, my like janky tripod that belonged to my dad from like the 70s. Okay. And we would put that just like, and put it on timer. And then like, I would be constantly running between the camera and wherever we were standing. So, and we did this because we couldn't afford a photographer. So we just did these, like,
works.
We took hundreds of photos. Like, let me tell you, it was hundreds of photos. And we like, it was this like, and so out of those hundreds of photos, you at least get a few good ones, right?
Yeah.
So we got some really good photos and made posters out of them, and then like it, had them printed at like our university print shop on like glossy paper, so it looked pretty, but it was actually really cheap because it's a university. And so like, yeah, but yeah, I did posters and it was like the most fantastic thing. And I had these like spreadsheets that I would, give to anyone who was involved with the recital, and it would have the time, what they were doing, like description of what they were doing, and, like basically it's like what their commitment was. Yeah, I ended up doing this for our wedding.
Yeah, you really were practicing for the wedding.
Yeah. Like you're recognizing all of this like from the.
Oh,
yeah.
Do I recognize it?
So
no, it was good though.
So for everyone who's listening, so I created a master timeline for my wedding. I believe it ended up being about 17 pages long, something like that, and it had every person that was involved in anything listed in there. With like the time that they were doing something listed like perfectly. And then what I did was I created smaller timelines for individual timelines for each individual person, so that they only saw what they were doing and they didn't have to worry about what everyone else was doing. I realized after the fact that essentially what I made was a score and individual parts.
Oh yeah.
That's basically what I did.
Wow.
And I didn't realize this until like after the wedding, and I was like, oh, wait a second, I just like did it in a totally musician style.
You were the conductor.
Yeah, basically I was. And it was just so fun to figure out the logistics of like, I know some people think this is a nightmare, but I thought it was really fun to like, like if this person walks here to do this, then that means that they can't be in this other room at the same time, which means that I have to have another person over there, right? And then maybe they might switch places because, one person might need to bring something over here, whereas this person needs to bring something over there, right? And then like keeping track of where they are at whatever point is really weirdly fun.
Kind of like a real life game.
It is.
I think in your head.
It is. It's planning. It's one of those like planning games where, you're trying to... it's a management game, basically.
Yeah. How can you best utilize everyone?
Yeah, exactly. So no one's kind of, sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Or if they are twiddling their thumbs, it's because you told them to. You know?
You don't twiddle voluntarily. You twiddle because I let you.
Yeah. So like it was really I enjoyed those parts of it. And I learned a lot from setting up those events. Like essentially like one of the weird side effects of putting on our 3rd year and 4th year recital was that it taught me how to event plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that when they go into music school, right? Like no one really thinks about like, oh, they think like, oh yeah, I'm going to put on a recital. But then no one really thinks about the logistics of putting on a recital. Right. And then you kind of get thrown into it because you have to make it happen. Right. So since you have to make it happen, you know, one way or another, you're going to learn how to, you know, work through the logistics of planning a recital.
So you actually graduate.
Oh, bless you.
You actually graduate with a lot more than just musical knowledge.
Yeah.
A lot of life skills that you build and you learn along the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think
it's very useful.
The recitals really, really were a huge part in learning the real life kind of aspect of it, you know?
Yeah. Especially time management.
Yeah. Which, you know, I could have done better on. But, you know.
Well, in hindsight, I guess that's why it's called hindsight. A lot of things that we did, we could have done better on. But, I mean,
yeah,
you learn and then you hopefully improve.
Absolutely. Oh, man. Man, recital.
That was our graduation recital.
That's how we did it. Those are, at the very least, those are our memories, which I think is really interesting. Like, just, you know, it's an interesting note to close off this particular episode. I think the most interesting thing is that we remember a lot of the surrounding events leading up to the recital.
Oh, yeah.
But do you realize that neither of us really talked about the actual recital very much?
Now that you say it, yeah. What actually happened on stage? Do you remember any of it?
No. I only remember a bit of the Golden Flute Concerto in my 3rd year.
Okay.
That's the only part I remember. Maybe a little bit of Prokofiev because I was doing it with a friend. That was pretty fun. I have faint memories of that. Very faint. But like at the point where I felt like I had the most power and magic happening was the Golden Flute Concerto. I don't remember anything else.
I remember 4th year recital. I remember finishing it, walking off stage and packing up. It felt, well, I mean, of course, I felt a huge sense of relief.
Oh, that's
and then, one more thing that we forgot to mention, actually.
Ooh.
Depends on the school you go to. I'm not sure what other schools are like, but for us at UBC, we more or less had to put on a reception afterwards.
Oh, yes!
It wasn't exactly required, I don't think, but...
Oh, no, but everyone would think that you were the cheapest person alive if you didn't put on a reception.
Yeah. So I remember looking forward to that.
Do you remember a certain person's mom who would make homemade, like I forget what it's called. It's like the tofu skin sushi.
Inari?
I think so. I think inari. Yeah. Do you remember? One of our friends had a mom who, yeah.
Wow.
The best reception item I ever ate was that inari. It was homemade inari. It was so good.
That is something.
Yeah.
I remember my mom put in a lot of effort too in the reception food. She made stir-fried vermicelli noodles.
Wait, I remember that.
She brought the entire rice cooker to school to keep it warm. But as a bassoonist, I take a long time to pack up.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes and upward.
Yep.
Or 5-10 minutes. By the time I came out, it was all gone.
Because it was good.
I was so sad. I was looking forward to that. And my mom's like, oh, no more, La. No more. You didn't save me some at home.
You know, that's a good tip. That is actually a wedding tip, guys, is to have someone save a plate for you. Not an empty plate, a plate of food.
Of food.
Yes, a plate of food. So this is something that we made sure that we did for each other at each other's weddings. We made sure that the other person ate. So you have to make sure that the bride eats, okay?
And drink water.
And drink water, exactly. So we were reminding each other at each other's weddings to eat and drink water. And if you are appointed as someone's basically right-hand person for their recital, you got to do the same thing for them, because they're also riding on this high after the recital. You know, it is a high, like a literal adrenaline high after the recital. They may not remember to eat. They may not remember to drink. It's like a bridal high, I would say. So make sure your friend eats.
And you can also bring them a banana or two before the recital. Yeah. Just to keep them calm. If they're not allergic.
Yeah, exactly. And, if they're not like me and I can't stand the texture of raw banana, that's really unfortunate. But, I think if you are very good friends with the person who is putting on a recital, maybe think about these little things, right? Be there for them as they're, about to start this, make sure that they're breathing correctly, that they're not hyperventilating, make sure that they're drinking water, make sure that they're, eating, and they're not going to faint, you know what I mean? And afterwards, make sure you save a plate for them from the reception, because also they may not actually be able to eat much during the reception because everyone's going to want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to talk to the star,
And just to congratulate them. I mean, they deserve it with all the hard work that they've put in.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned the reception. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Almost forgot.
I know.
But also, if you are that friend, or if you have a close friend who is about to put on a recital, just maybe the month before or a little while before, just check in on them once in a while. Just make sure that they're okay. Mentally, they're okay. Yeah. Physically, they're okay. Their health. Just make sure they're taking care of themselves too.
Yeah. The check-ins are very appreciated. If you're wondering am I going to bother them? No, you're not. They're going to feel like, okay, I'm not alone,
Yeah. If they are your friend, they will appreciate it.
Yeah. I would really say don't feel like you're bothering them or anything like that. Not at all. Because I know for a fact it was very helpful to have someone like you, checking in on me. That was really, really good.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I mean, you can't help it. You know what I mean? You see your best friend going through the same thing as you, and you're just like, you okay?
You're all human.
Yeah.
Just be there for each other.
Exactly. I'm starting to think that's why, Carrie, that's why our weddings went so well.
What, because we planned recitals?
Yeah.
So everyone should be a musician. Everyone should go to music school before you get married. Yeah. Required.
Yeah. Because you guys had a huge master timeline too.
I wrote a mini score. I didn't separate it.
Yeah. No, but it was easy to follow. You color coded it and everything. Come on, okay. You color coded it. I just went to the extreme because I just like doing this.
You.
Stuff. I don't know why. I've always enjoyed doing this kind of stuff. My mom even told me, she was like, yo, if you lose your job and you can't teach anymore, straight up just be a wedding planner. I'm oh,
I think you do really well.
Yeah, that's what my mom says. So that's kind of my backup plan, is to be an event planner.
Okay.
Yeah. If all else fails, right? I can plan some stuff for people and have some fun, right? Or I was even thinking it'd be really fun for that to be sort of a retirement, fun.
Oh my gosh.
Right. When I'm bored and retired, I have nothing to do. You know what I mean? That'd be really fun.
My retirement plan is a puppy daycare.
Oh, oh my
I just want to
gosh.
hug puppies all day long.
Oh, that's heaven. I love it.
Well, we'll see.
Well, on the note of retirement,
Think we can retire from this
yeah,
episode.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Which,
Okay, so thank you so much for listening.
Mhm.
And we hope that you enjoyed our stories, as crazy as they are, about our recitals and our feelings when we were about to graduate
Mhm.
from our undergraduate degrees.
Mhm.
If you are about to graduate, or if you have graduated already and you share any of these feelings, any of these thoughts, please feel free to reach out to us. We are on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on anchor.fm, and we have a website as well. Let's play it by ear
Mhm. .com.
com.
Mhm.
Or you can email us your questions or comments or thoughts, feedback at let's play it by ear.podcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's let's play it by ear.podcast@gmail.com. We would really love to hear from you. And once again, thank you for staying with us throughout this whole episode. And we will see you next time.
Alrighty. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.